We've got 3 great candidates. They're all perfect, depending on what is our first sort of strategic goal. We thought we knew what we wanted to do and what direction we wanted to go in, but now, what are we gonna do?
So it's been a long road since about July of last year, and here we are. We have 3 candidates out of the field of candidates that were given to us. Today we get to meet one of the 3, and over the next few days we'll get to meet all 3 of them. Spent the last weekend really in depth with their resumes. They come from 3 different industries, 3 different walks of life. They're all super successful and super impressive.
We're about 5 minutes from walking over to grab her. Candidate 1. So the thing that's got me really excited is that this candidate puts us in a position to go into spaces that we're redefining possible for our business in general.
So the day has finally come. This is day 1 for our candidates. All of them are coming in to begin their interview process, and we are so excited. This is the first opportunity that the candidates will have to sit face to face and meet Terry and Rashad. They're going through quite an extensive interview process. Today they'll sit with Rashad and Terry for about 2 or 3 hours and really have an in-depth one-on-one conversation. This is important for us because this is the opportunity that they have to really get to know who the candidates are outside of their resumes. So all of them are exceptionally qualified. We've managed to find 3 industry leaders who are women, who have deep experience in the field, but today is when we're really going to get into it. We get to see how all their experience on their resume translates into the potential future leader of Epigen. What drives them? What are their core values? What's their leadership philosophy? How they think, how they manage people. What are their concepts and ideas about how to grow a company? When you're faced with hard decisions, how do you make them? What are the principles that you draw on? When you have to learn your way through doing something new, who do you call on and how do you structure that process? How do you lead people through change? And of course, what you've done in the past that really positions you to do well in this job, but also where you failed in the past and what you've learned from it. They're going to talk about all of those things today with Terry and Rashad.
As we always talk about, outcomes are irrelevant. The process is what matters. And so if you stay with the process and the process is pure, you'll get the outcome that you want, maybe above and beyond what you could have even thought about. And so that's where we are now. And I'm very excited about that, man. Awesome. So let's go interview our CEO, man. Just say, what are your thoughts on how we approach the world in terms of our principles and what have you, and how does that potentially align with what you also already bring to the table and what you have, what your principles are, what guides you?
To this point of this crazy growth that we were going through, we found ourselves pulled back in to basically being task officers.
Just say it this way. Do you have a particular framework that you normally work from in order for our company to grow from that? An organization's merely, to me, just a collection of people doing work.
What happens when they don't work out?
Yeah. You mentioned, you're able to sort of bring together the strategy and drive them to a decision and set the organization up so that it was successful when you were gone.
What was the culture like when you got there? And what was it like when you left?
When you dream about the work you really, really want to do, what would that be?
Yeah.
Are they still using principles, practices, frameworks, methods that you put in place before you went? Where do you stand on sort of building teams and delegating things out from? It's not just what value do I add in the company?
The strategy is being definitive in your optimism towards a better future. You have to plan today for that.
I understand that there's always storming involved. So what are some of the challenges you continue to experience and how do you address them? Describe the culture of the organizations before you got there. Are you responsible for sort of setting up the processes for how a business development team would get set up and or pipelines developed? Yep.
You did say something there too that kind of keyed me in, is like there was nobody left to be in charge of the culture. Like, what do you mean by that?
What is the entire industry, and can you define where things are going and know exactly what your value proposition is in the middle of that?
How do you hire a CEO?
Sky's the limit. You can get anything you want because you're the only one that can actually describe the future to somebody. You can describe reality. Interesting. So we've hit a point where, to be honest, it's been a lot of deep reflection and just a series of going through essentially the 5 stages of grief, all the way to the point of acceptance. And for me, it was acceptance of a fact, right? I have skills. I've been able to sort of build upon talents, things that I'm naturally good at, as well as I've spent a lot of time getting my reps in as a business owner, trying to figure out how to get better at things. At the same time, there's a certain level of things I've just never been exposed to. So I have limitations, and I'm completely and keenly aware of those limitations. And the space that I want to take the company to, those things, I'm aware that I just have not crossed that path yet. That's not something that I've done. And so I understand very fully that if we're talking under $100 million, if you will, I have experience with that. I think I'm very comfortable getting the company to that level. But my aspirations and my goals are well beyond that.
So yesterday we spent about an hour and a half discussing candidate 1, who we had just spent 3.5 hours with. So immediately after, wanted to document our kind of reactions and our ideas around that candidate. I just want to throw this out there. Not about the candidates, but about what I've heard from both the candidates today, or from between yesterday and today. I think we got to come to a decision on where we want to go, because this candidate takes us in a completely different direction than the one yesterday. I think I knew it was going to be tougher, but now it's like, I think it really comes back to us, right? Like, what is it we want to do, right?
She gave ideas for industries where we could offer value, and she was naming things I would never have thought of. We asked her a question and we were just like, so what spaces do you think we should be in? And she's like, well, I mean, off the top of my head, I did about 5-10 minutes of research. I looked at the website. I recognized that you guys are about 1 contract deep, and that's not a real business. And then she just started running down all the different areas we should be going into based on our capabilities, our background, and who we were. And that's when it became abundantly clear to me. I didn't even know that, I didn't even know what I didn't know. What do we really want to do?
Yeah.
When I was done talking to her, I was like, I could do something, but I could not do what she can do.
We're looking for somebody who at the same time knows how to grow an organization. And the Ethos study showed that what Epigen values most is its people.
It talked to me about how you manage people in an organization. It didn't talk about how do you build a team.
I felt like she's never had to build one.
And this is really important to have someone who can not only grow the bottom line of the company, but who can continue to support the creation of a shared, strong, thriving culture that keeps people motivated, that keeps people connected, that keeps people creative, that keeps teams solving really interesting and fun challenges, and that really helps the organization be able to hold itself together as we grow.
Terry and I will do our last interview today, and hopefully she'll be able to stick around. We'll have dinner with her as well. At dinner, we always have Vidette come in, and she has a chance to interact as well. Today's candidate will do her personal presentation and case study tomorrow. On Thursday, that is Thursday, on Friday, we'll have a chance to sit down with all of the team members who are a part of each part of the process and just get their evaluations of how each performed. I'm not asking for their recommendation on who we should pick. We're being very keen about that because I don't want any outside influence on that. But we're just gonna ask them what happened. What did they say? How did they respond? In the chaos of the case study, when there was a different thing introduced, how did they handle that? How did they make you feel?
Precision, focus, clarity. I am so overwhelmed by what I just saw from candidate number 2. This individual comes in here and stands in front of us and blows us away with her ability to articulate what she sees as a future by showing us who she is. I don't understand how this team is going to select a CEO from what I've seen already. The choices are difficult, but more importantly, they're excellent. And candidate number 2 shows me that they understand how to see the world that will make Epigen successful in the near and far future.
Were they warm? Were they inviting? Do you feel like you can learn something from them? In their process of answering questions in the case study or asking you questions, do you feel like they had you consider something that you had not considered before? For all of our consultants, the idea is that you come in and it's a 3-part interview. Well, of course, after the initial screen from our recruiter or whoever interacts with you, the next thing that really happens is we do a breakdown of your skill sets based on your resume, what have you. The next thing you do is a case study. The reason we do the case study is we want to see you in practice. We want to assess your abilities as a consultant in a real simulation, in a real scenario.
Okay, so we just wrapped up candidate 2's business case interview. She really did an amazing job of, one, going with the flow, but also bringing her personality into the room. It was really chaotic. It went better than I could have hoped. And then she began to sort of walk us through some potential solutions, but not driving deep into any one thing. We had a lot of comments. When Vanessa Cherie showed up in the room, she created chaos immediately, but she was able to actually walk her to her seat. And she was really a good sport, just allowing us to record the entire thing. So overall, it was great. She did a phenomenal job. I don't think it could have gone any better.
Would you want to follow them? Those are the things that we'll assess. We'll add it to what Terry and I have been thinking about just from a lot of the technical questions about their ability to do the job, their relevant connections in the industry, their visions. Even though they don't have that much information about Epigen outside of their research, their vision for where they think this company can go, as well as we'll call each of the candidates back and get their feedback and ask them, how did you like the process? What would you change in the process? What do you remember the most? How was it interacting with our team members? Do you feel like you're already a part of the team? Like once we get all of that assessment done, we'll sit down and we'll make a decision.